good sticks, everyone? Welcome to the Captain Avalanche Fancast, your unofficial source for all things Colorado Avalanche hockey and more from a fan perspective, hosted by me, Captain Avalanche Corey, and there in the playoff bubble, Dom. Now, we're no insiders. We're not inside the locker room face-to-face with our favorite players, but we hope to create a relatable and welcoming environment because we're just like all of you listening. Fans with a deep passion for the game of hockey, and in this case, the Colorado Avalanche. Winning makes everything more fun. Wouldn't you agree, Dom?
Oh, certainly. So much more fun.
Well, Scott Wedgwood said it himself as he leads the league in wins for a goaltender. Mind you, he's still technically the backup. But those winning ways helped the Avalanche complete a clean sweep in a tough back-to-back in Canada that was followed up by a clash of the Western Conference Titans with the Ducks. All W's. Not to mention an extension to a deserving young player. We're going to tell you how it all went down, but the Avalanche, they weren't the only perfect team this week. Since we were with you last week, the San Jose Sharks have done nothing but win. And it wasn't just any wins against any old teams. You're going to want to hear all about it because, excuse me, this year's playoff picture is already shaping up to be the most exciting it's been in years. The goals and the vibes are up, and the L's are way down. But all of this and more on this week's episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast.
The obliteration of the Oilers.
There was a point where this game felt competitive, when it was still tight and close, and Edmonton was putting pressure on the Avalanche and threatening to score. It was shaping up to be like how most of their games are, close, tight, competitive. A battle between the two players who many deem to be the current best in the world. It isn't a direct one-on-one competition and rivalry like it is with Sid and Ovi or like Celebrini and Bedard is quickly becoming, but the battle between MacKinnon and McDavid is more of who can tilt the ice the most in his team's favor, whose raw skill and talent will tip the scales in this game, who can take over and dominate above not just each other, but all others. Tonight, it was far and away Nathan MacKinnon. Even with McDavid getting the team's only goal, MacKinnon was the brightest star, not just in this game, but in the entire NHL that night. Not tonight. I don't know why I said tonight. It was far away. No, that night, that game. Okay, I'm already digging myself a deeper hole. Moving on. As time went on throughout this game, an issue for the Avalanche was exposed again that the top line can get caught and cycled in its own zone. The Edmonton... Okay.
Edmonton!
I don't know what I'm saying. The Edmonton top line exploited this heavily multiple times throughout the entirety of the game. This made me sweat as I watched because anybody who watches hockey knows how lethal of a duo McDavid and Draisaitl are when they're on the ice at the same time. The problem for Edmonton was it didn't mean anything because it resulted in nothing. Not only that, but this aforementioned pressure only came from their top line, who appeared to be the only line on Edmonton actually trying to play. And I don't mean to be as harsh as I'm sounding, but it was true when I say that no other line or combination for Edmonton felt even remotely threatening. And that was before the Avalanche crushed them 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-1. Eventually, there was just a feeling of apathy from the Edmonton players, and it just appeared as though they were simply trying to survive the game until the final horn. Now, there comes a point in a hockey game where it is nearly statistically impossible to come back. Once a team is ahead by so much because of how hard it is to score in the NHL, even if scoring is up, it just won't happen. And you simply, as a team, have to move on to the next game, and history supports this. Now, if Edmonton had kept it close, going goal for goal like they did in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals in 2022, then it's a different story. And even with high-scoring affairs, a team can still come back, but once the deficit is too great, it is simply too much to overcome. And when you're playing the best opponents on earth, and I'm not just referring to the Avs, I'm referring to any NHL team, when you're playing those, it just is too difficult. But a comeback isn't impossible. Even at a deficit of 5 goals, a team has managed to come back, but That has only happened 10 times in NHL history. And the most recent time was when Chicago came back to beat Calgary in overtime on October 12th, 2009. But 4 goals isn't so improbable, but not impossible. In fact, a 4-goal comeback has already occurred this season when the Detroit Red Wings came back to beat the Blues on October 25th. And let's not forget when the Avalanche did it last season against the Buffalo Sabres with the new, at the time, goaltender, Scott Wedgwood. But the conditions have to be just right. And by the time Edmonton managed to score their first goal, that deficit was already near that insurmountable 5. I don't know why I'm talking about Edmonton so much. Perhaps I just wanted to show just how badly the Avalanche dismantled them. But with that moping on Edmonton's behalf out of the way, let's highlight some of my favorite stats from this game. Oh, and in case it still isn't clear, the Colorado Avalanche obliterated the Edmonton Oilers 9-1. Usually, max scores level out at around 7 goals or so, but to get to nearly 10 is another level of destruction. So, as for your highlights, the most obvious is that the Avalanche went 0 for 7 on their power play in this game and still scored 9 goals. There were 4 different players that had 2 goals with 0 hat tricks. In addition to that, though, 12 different Avs players had at least a point and 3 different lines scored. It was said that Parker Kelly had 40 members of his friends and family attending the game. Hell of a game for him with 3 points of his own. Dom, without looking, I don't know if you've already seen it. What do you think, because there was 2 goaltenders for Edmonton that played in this game, what do you think Stuart Skinner's save percentage was for this game before he was pulled?
Before he was pulled. Am I allowed to know how many he gave up before was he pulled? Was it 5
It
or
was 4.
6 when
He
they
gave up
pulled him?
4. And
It was
then they
at
pulled
4.
him.
Okay, so
Yeah.
they pulled him at 4. Wow, so Pickard gave up 5 after that. Jeez.
Correct.
Okay, so since he gave up 4 and it was bad enough to get pulled, let's say
He was pulled partway through the second.
let's say like I don't know, 625.
You were actually decently close. Stuart Skinner was pulled from the game with a 692 save percentage. And would you like to guess what Calvin Pickard finished the game with?
Oh, it's got to be worse. Having given up 5 in the same period of
I
time.
will tell you
and
this,
the
it
Avs would've-
actually shockingly isn't. It is better because he played, I think, longer.
It's better.
I think he played longer and he
okay.
faced more shots than Skinner did.
Then let's call it like 740.
Also close. He finished the game with a 762. Scott Wedgwood for the Avs walked away with a .958 save percentage. This
Wow.
one is actually one of my favorites and probably the most tragic. Not a single player on the Oilers was a plus this game or even a 0. Every single player was a minus, meaning that every single player on the Oilers was on the ice for at least 2 or more Avalanche goals. Or sorry, I guess I should say 1 or more Avalanche goals because there were, I think, a couple -1s. Let me check. But then there was 1 Edmonton goal that would have given them a plus. But otherwise, yeah, hold on. Let me double check myself here. See.
Just to
There were
put
a
this in
couple
a different
-1s.
perspective.
There was only 4
Sorry,
players.
I
who
didn't
were
mean to talk over
-1.
you.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, while you were looking up the stat, to put this in a different perspective for everyone listening, the last time I heard a team getting beat this bad was the dumpster fire Sharks of like 2 years ago. So 9-1, yeah, everybody's going to be negative. If they're somehow not negative, then they're a wizard who was secretly helping the Avs win, as far as I'm concerned, because I mean, if you somehow are positive when your team gives up 9 goals, I don't believe it. I just it
At
feels
that
fake. It
point,
just doesn't feel mathematically possible.
at that point, I think it's just luck that you're not on the ice when the Avalanche are. Because I mean, 9 goals in 60 minutes. I mean, we'll just pretend it's 10. That's a goal a little over. Well, we won't, but yeah, that's a goal a little over every 6 minutes of the game, which is just,
Yeah, and
my God.
it's possible. It's possible that they wouldn't be on the ice, but I'd be like, nah, this
Yeah.
person's a wizard on the bench going Wingardium Goliosa for the Avs to get them to score whenever he's not out there to look good.
Exactly. Wingardium Goliosa. And then one more stat here is this game has the highest PDO stat I think I have ever seen for the Avalanche at 132.2. And for those who have forgotten from what we discussed previously, the PDO stat, also known as the luck stat, is calculated using a team's shooting percentage added to their team save percentage at 5-on-5, which in this scenario makes a lot of sense because the Avalanche, I think, had 36 shots on goal in this game. Let me check myself here. They had 34 shots against. So I mean, they had that many shots against, and they only had 20 or that many shots on net, and then they only had 24 shots that they saved themselves. So pretty remarkable there. And shooting percentage is calculated from how many times you shoot versus how many times it actually goes in. So 9 times makes for a pretty high fucking shooting percentage.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, that's also, I mean, I'll get to it when I talk about the Sharks and in the tank, but they had something similar happen in their game against Seattle, which we covered in part in live time last week, since we were watching live while we were recording it. At least I was having it in my other ear. And by comparison, since you're bringing up PDO, since I actually have it up in front of me, the Sharks had a 123.3,
Wow.
which is probably the highest PDO they've had in years. So not quite what the Avs had, but right there with you this week. The Sharks and Avs have been running parallel ever since their matchup.
That's really impressive for your boys. That's good to hear. I'm glad that shit's finally turning around. That makes me happy. But that is all I have to say. All I have to say. That is the obliteration of the Edmonton Oilers. I mean, man, I've been watching hockey for, I'd say, 9 years now, and very rarely have I seen a score, like I said, eclipse 7 when a team is getting blown out, let alone 9. I was told by a friend who was trolling some Edmonton threads that there were fans, Edmonton fans, who were starting to cheer for the Avs to get to 10. Because I mean, at that point, what else are you gonna do? You might as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, if your team is pitiful, right? Might as well see something, be there for a
I know.
record,
Be
like
there for
see something
mercy.
impressive. Like your team's losing, it's not going to get any better. Might as well see a one of a kind type of game, which I mean, I wish it wasn't something I'd seen recently because it happened twice, just
True.
twice to the Sharks in the 2023-24 season, losing 10-1 to the Canucks and 10-2 to the Penguins, both at home. So I wouldn't be surprised if our fans were rooting for the other team as well. Not to mention a 9-2 loss to the Oilers that season too. So I feel the pain out there for all of you fans of Edmonton, and Edmonton is a much better team than the 2023-24 San Jose Sharks. So I'm sure they will
Well,
bounce back at some point.
This was also, I didn't have it written, but I did recall that this is the second worst loss in Edmonton Oilers history. I think they got beat 10-1 at one point in their history back in, I think, the 2010s or so. And fun fact, just in case any Edmonton fans are listening, in the Avalanche's worst season, I came across this while doing some research for this episode. The Avalanche during the 2016-17 season, their 48-point season, were beat by the Montreal Canadiens 10-1. So Everybody's had a really insanely obliteration loss, but I do think it is amplified a bit here by the fact that McDavid took the cheap extension and they've made the finals the last 2 years. And I think every team gets blown out at least once during the season, no matter how good or bad that you are. It happens. But like, not this bad. Like 9-1 is bad. Because you didn't just blow out one goaltender, you blew out two goaltenders, especially with the storyline with Edmonton of how rough their goaltending has been and, the need for change probably. And I think this just amplified the noise on that issue a lot more. But I mean, the team as a whole didn't play well at all, but yeah. Anyway.
I mean, personally, I think they're way past probably. We were badgering, judging, making fun of their goaltending all last season, I feel like, on this podcast. You and I would be talking shit about it, even on the side, especially on playoff time, where they suddenly out of nowhere decided to play. And we're like, what the fuck is this shit? So it's multiple years. Why do you run it back a third time? You got to the finals twice and fell on your face twice. And yeah, you made it close and almost won a cup, but almost counts for nothing. So, it was bound to catch up with them and be bad. And if Edmonton misses a playoff spot, sounds great to me. I'd opened up with that the Sharks can possibly steal.
Yeah, exactly. Well, almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Well, let's talk about a little bit of almost here with the Vancouver Canucks. Despite scoring 5 goals in this game, the Avalanche played like ass. There is no nice way to say it. The team did not play well at all. They could not hold a lead to save their lives, and they let Vancouver back into this game at multiple points and could not close it out if they wanted to, if they tried. I won't even put it on Mackenzie Blackwood, who's still getting back up to game speed. He honestly kept the Avs in the game. It didn't necessarily feel like the Avalanche weren't putting in the effort either. They just looked disjointed and maybe a little tired out there. I mean, I'd be pretty tired slinging 9 goals into the net the night prior. No one minus Gavin Brindley and Nathan MacKinnon seemed to have their legs, and I'm being a little, nice to Nathan MacKinnon, but nice, and you'll see why. Vancouver notoriously gave the Avalanche a hard time every time they played each other over the last couple of years, and this game was no different. Why the Avalanche didn't get Thatcher Demko in this game, though, is beyond me, as Vancouver was also coming off a back-to-back in which they played Kevin Lankinen the night before, but then decided to play him twice. Thank God they did, though. Not that the kid played bad, despite ending the game with a .844 save percentage, although Blackwood is only marginally better with a .879, but had the Avs faced Demko, I genuinely doubt they would have been able to continue to score to keep themselves ahead of the Canucks or break the ties. But the decision by Vancouver coaching staff genuinely baffles me. Not that the Avs haven't done it, but they split the time between... Not that the Avs haven't done this where they've played a goaltender in back-to-back nights, but right now they have the luxury to split the time between their two capable goalies, and that's what they did. Not to mention, I think anyone with eyes can see that the Avalanche are rolling right now. Would you say, Dom, that's an accurate assessment? The Avalanche are rolling right now? Just yes or no?
Were rolling like a puck off. Yeah, like a puck off of Edmonton's stick. Really quickly, just before we go too far, Thatcher Demko, he's going to be out for the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Oh my God.
With an injury. So no surprise, honestly, because he's been injured more often than not, which is unfortunate. I am sad for him as a human being. This one is a groin injury, but it sounds, for a goaltender, a groin injury and moving side to side is a lot worse. So I'm guessing that might have been why they switched it up later on and had Lincoln in play twice.
Perhaps, but he wasn't injured at that point. He didn't get injured, I think, until the Winnipeg game, the couple days after when the same night the Avalanche played the Ducks. So it feels weird to me that they didn't do that. And I mean, why would you not, or would you not want to give your team the best chance to stop one of, if not the highest scoring team in the NHL given the night? Regardless, though, I think that goaltending ended up being a factor in the Avalanche's eventual victory. But going back to my previous point, not only did the Avalanche play poorly, but Vancouver looked hungry. They desperately wanted the win. The Avalanche were second to pucks on every single play. They were a step behind the Canucks the entire night. They couldn't back check fast enough. They couldn't forecheck hard enough. They couldn't win any puck battles. They really couldn't win any battles, big or small. They continued to turn the puck over to the home team all night long and made poor passing choices. It was so bad that at one point Martin Necas was relegated to the lower lines as punishment, for an awful turnover that led to a Vancouver goal. This, however, gave Gavin Brindley, of all people, a chance to play next to Nathan MacKinnon on the top line. More on him later. The Canucks were fast. Faster than the fastest team in the NHL on this night. And in case you're forgetting who that is, it's the Colorado Avalanche. They're statistically the fastest team in the NHL. And the eye test will tell you that. But genuinely, I have not seen a team outspeed the Avalanche the way Vancouver did in this game. Vancouver had really kicked it into another gear, and they pressed the entire night to try and get this win, and their team desperately needs it in a shockingly competitive Pacific Division. But in spite of all of that, the Avalanche won. If this is one of the Avalanche's worst performances, I do think a couple OT losses might have been worse, but I just got distracted, everybody. I'm super happy because with 23 seconds left in the third period, the Philadelphia Flyers have scored the go-ahead goal to break the tie with Edmonton to hopefully avoid another overtime here. So, ha ha ha. Anyway, let me restart that statement here. But in spite of all of the negatives that I have just spoken, the Avalanche won the game. If this is one of the Avalanche's worst performances, and I do think that there was a couple OT losses that might have been worse, and they still pulled out the victory, I mean, what else is there to say? I bitched and moaned about this game incessantly while it was happening. I'm shocked that my mom didn't smack me upside the head and kick me out of the house. It was just genuinely so frustrating that the Avalanche could not hold the lead no matter what. Not to mention, Kiefer Sherwood, former Av, continues to be an Avalanche killer every time he plays his former club, as is the case with many former Avalanche players, a la Matt Duchene, a la fucking Mikko Rantanen, a la anybody who's ever played for the Avs and then plays on a different team. Yet, in spite of not being able to hold the lead, the Avalanche never trailed. Not once. The most the Canucks could manage was a tie game. Therefore, the Avalanche bent, cracked even, but never broke. Even when they are not performing to the level we are fully aware of and that the Avalanche themselves have demonstrated that they can perform at, they're still winning. However, because the Avs couldn't get another go-ahead goal by the time Jake DeBrusk tied it for Vancouver for the final time on a rare given-up power play goal by the Avs' stellar penalty kill that meant we were going to
overtime.
People have tried to say that the Avs are OT loss merchants, which isn't true. A whole fuck ton of games are going to extra time beyond regulation. For example, this fuck-ass one against Edmonton because the goal was offside. I hate the fucking offsides rule and review. That shit is so dumb. We need to get rid of it. Anyway, more than normal, it seems. Teams are simply upping their compete level in the early goings this season, which is odd given the prize that awaits the team that finishes at the bottom this year, a la Gavin McKenna. But it is definitely a welcome reward for us fans of the game. It is not, however, a reward for Avalanche fans who already felt as though the outcome was predetermined. Another OT loss incoming. Even if the Avs got possession, they were another bad turnover away from an odd man rush and a Vancouver tuck for the comeback win to send the Avalanche back to ball, frustrated that the curse had still not been broken. Something had to change. Something new had to be tried. The typical trio, regardless of talent, wasn't working. To start, there was a change. MacKinnon was still out there as always, but he was flanked by Lehkonen and Taves. This trio won possession, but it wasn't able to generate much. But soon, cue Gavin Brindley. He had earned the trust of the coaching staff due to his outstanding play since coming back from concussion protocol, and now he is one of the few out there in a critical overtime. This kid is fast. I noted it in the Ducks game as well, but Gavin Brindley is really speedy. His size might throw off some teams, but not the Avs, who seem to have a real diamond in the rough here. He puts in maximum effort literally every shift, every single game. He is a noticeable presence, and I would say is a clone of Logan O'Connor with the way that he plays the game, except Gavin Brindley may have an even higher ceiling that he is racing his way to reach. Gavin Brindley used this play to weave between all three Vancouver players to get a much-needed shot on Lehkonen, who couldn't collect the rebound, who Brindley beat everyone to and hustled to put it through Lehkonen's legs to finally give the Avalanche their first OT win of the season. Incredible effort. He is going to fit in perfectly next to LOC when he returns, and this Avalanche fourth line is shaping up to be one of the absolute scariest in the league. It means business. Serious business. Dom. If you have anything to say, you're not required to.
No, I actually have a couple things, but your fourth line truly is incredible.
Dude, I love it.
Enjoyed watching them, especially while Josh Manson is out there at the same time. Oh, that is some fun hockey to watch. But OT loss merchants, because you're right. Everyone, OT losses, OT games are up very early in the year, and maybe it'll balance out as teams settle in, as injuries happen. We'll start to get a growth in parity, but that's also why it's so close in the East, where, I mean, even let's take Buffalo out of the equation. They're in last with 14 points, but everyone else has 17 points or more, and 18 points will get you a playoff spot in the East. And in the West, we have, we're going to take Calgary, Nashville, and St. Louis out and just go from Vancouver up, has 17 or more points, and 19 gets you a playoff spot. So there's a reason it's so close right now. Yes, it's early in the season, but it really is all of the overtime games. 14 out of 32 teams in the league have at least 3 OT losses already this year, compared to only 5 teams who haven't dropped a single game in overtime. So either way, there's not an easy way sometimes to see all the overtime wins. We just track them as wins, right? But you're right. A lot more games are going to overtime, and as fans, sure, it might be ugly. It might not feel great to lose at 3-on-3 or in a shootout, but guess what? Neither of those things are in the playoffs. And the Avalanche have one loss in 17 games in regulation. So when it's playoff time and you play till you drop dead on the ice, if that's what it comes to, or score a goal, whichever one happens first, guess what? The Avalanche have the advantage. The next closest team in the league, Corey, there's multiple of them, but the next closest is 4 regulation losses. So the Avs are getting 3 extra points from those losses compared to the next closest team in the league. So if for people calling him an OT loss merchant, it's like, fine, sure, whatever. You're just throwing shit, saying shit to say it, because the OT games are up and the Avs just simply aren't losing in regulation. And that is a blessing and an incredible show of their talent this year.
Thank you, Dom. That's what I think. That's what everybody else thinks. But sure, God forbid we get some points for games getting pushed beyond regulation. And I want to say that none of those losses so far have been because the Avalanche have thrown a game and the other team has come back. No, that's because the Avalanche came back, tied the games, forced overtime, and wasn't able to finish it off. This OT win against Vancouver is actually the first game that went to overtime because the Avalanche were the ones who got tied and had to finish it off in overtime. So Neener. Anyway, um, moving along to our final game here. Oh gosh.
The Clash of the Titans!
I'm gonna spoil it now because I haven't spoken about it up to this point. I've doted on several players tonight, but I haven't spoken about the one. Nathan MacKinnon, who has had a season with 140 points, is somehow playing even better than that right now on the deepest team the Avalanche have had in years, where he is no longer having to shoulder the burden of being the team's only source of offense, where his ice time is at reasonable levels, where he is not the end-all be-all of the team's success. He has elevated his play even further beyond. It is downright frightening just how well Nathan MacKinnon is playing. He had 4 points in the 9-1 crushing of Edmonton, and then followed that up by factoring in on every single goal the Avs scored against the Canucks the following night, scoring 2 of them himself for 9 points in 27 hours. He then followed that up with another casual 3 points against the Ducks for 12 points in 3 games. He has accumulated 32 points in 17 games and is scoring at an almost 2 points per game pace, in case you can't do that math. He leads the NHL in goals, assists, and overall scoring. He is on a 154-point pace to absolutely smash his previous season high and making my preseason prediction correct. He is also set to smash records set by Joe Sakic and any of the many Stastny brothers who played for the Nordiques, which is nothing to sniff at. Some of these records include 11 career point streaks of at least 10 games or more, passing both Joe Sakic and Peter Stastny at 10 for the most in Avs and Nordiques history. He now has 381 goals, passing Peter Stastny for the 3rd most in franchise history. He only needs to catch Michel Goulet and Joe Sakic. MacKinnon is only 1 point away from being 2nd all-time in points in Avalanche and Nordiques history, and that will pass Stastny. Mac was also only the 2nd player in Avs Nordique history to score 2 goals in back-to-back games. So 2 goals in each of the back-to-back games. When you're breaking some of those Nordiques records, you are truly in some elite territory. Before I talk about the game itself,
Wait.
Dom. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're good.
Yeah, before you get to the game itself, because that's insane. 9 points in 27 hours.
Correct.
That is a point every 3 hours of the day, even when he's not playing.
Correct.
That's insane.
He generates
Like one
points in
game
his
is like
sleep.
3 hours.
Yes.
And it's actually on ice time is only 60 minutes. It's literally 1 hour. But if you factor in all the other stuff, it's basically 3 hours, right?
Correct.
But I was honestly kind of annoyed and just dumbfounded because I go to bed one night and Celebrini finally jumps into the lead. He has the most points in the league. I think at the time was like 24 or 25. Had sole possession of the lead for a night. And then I look up like a day later, 24 hours later, when I'm getting ready, writing stuff down here for us to record, and he's trailing MacKinnon by 6. And I'm like, what happened? I was going to talk about how the next great one had already arrived, and MacKinnon just shot that shit down. Like, I'm impressed. It is amazing. It is truly a display of, hey, all these young kids, because basically everyone else in the top 5 is under the age of 23. So, or I mean, you got right behind MacKinnon, it's Celebrini and Carlson tied at 26 points on the season, and then Bedard. So it's MacKinnon at 30, leading the league and up by 6 points on the next closest, then 3 kids under the age of 23 up there at the top. He was like, your time isn't yet, kids. and then McDavid coming in 5th, a distant 5th. So
go ahead.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I'd like to point out that Makar is tied in points with McDavid. Anyway.
Not anymore.
Makar is he 1 point behind him now?
Yeah, technically speaking. Makar's tied with Mikko Rantanen, though.
Don't say that name! That blasphemous name! That's crazy that Kale Makar is, like, tied with forwards. Anyway, yeah. Sorry, bro. Not today.
Oh, it's all good. I have a decade of this, and or probably much more. But the 20s are their prime, and kid hasn't even left his teenage years yet. So, I'm not upset. I wanted to be able to say that Celebrini was leading it. I mean, he's in the Art Ross Trophy conversation, right? So that already is a win in of itself for the Sharks, and we don't need to win all the individual stats. We're winning games, and that matters more to me, honestly. Yes. But everybody knows Celebrini's a superstar. I don't need him to hog all the stats while he's at. MacKinnon can take all of those.
Certainly no sophomore slump for Celebrini, but we'll talk about him more here in just a little bit. But yes, I'm hoping MacKinnon can finally capture his first Art Ross trophy. He's been very close several years where he literally comes in like 2 points behind fucking Nikita Kucherov. So here's hoping that this is the year that he can finally do it as he just continues to excel at a different level. But anyways, on to the game itself. I felt like this game lived up to the hype that people were putting it in as the battles of 2 of the best teams in the West, which at the start of the year, no one would have seen the Avalanche and the Ducks. But the Avs came out hot and heavy, and they dominated for the first 18 minutes. And the Stahl, just like last year when the Avalanche were fighting for their first win of the year, stood very firm. After the Avs got the early lead off of another Arturi Lehkonen goal, fun fact, it was their fastest goal scored of the year at 28 seconds, which beat the previous fastest at 32 seconds. They had difficulty breaking through to Stahl again after that. The Avalanche had several open nets on Stahl that they just missed throughout the game, and with a game as competitive as this one, you simply couldn't give the Ducks an opportunity to hang around unnecessarily, because whenever the Avs did have chances, the Ducks had superb defense, especially from Mintyukov and Lacombe. Carlson also was living up to the hype as he tied the game for the Ducks in what ended up being their only goal. That spurred the Ducks on as they came out hot and heavy in the second and made the Avs look off balance for a moment, but the Avs ended up countering with Gabe Landeskog's first real goal of the season! It took 3 tries, but the captain has finally scored, and it was the game winner, no less. It was a bit of a goober setup by Malinsky, as he was looking to hammer one, but his stick kind of just broke and the puck floated to Val Nichushkin's stick, who would exit the game in the third period and not return, who then put it on net where Landy was waiting to clean it up and chip it in past Dostal. Everyone held their breath and waited to celebrate to see if it would count. It did. This game was back and forth from the second period on, and there was a lot of exciting action and chances, but I never felt any worry that the Avalanche were going to lose. And that's not to take away from the Ducks' performance, which was solid all around and full of skill and youth, but the Avalanche still, deep down, felt like the ones in the driver's seat. But it didn't make it any less exciting, and the Ducks had an excellent push in the final 3 minutes with the goalie pulled for one last gasp, but Parker Kelly, after some extreme effort from his teammates, got the empty netter for another Avalanche win at home. A couple other notable events from this game is Wedgwood got clocked in his Wedgwood by Jackson Lacombe, and I didn't figure this out until after the replay showed Lacombe's skate going straight into his wedge balls. He was down for a bit. Okay, good. I was gonna be so mad if that didn't make you laugh. I was like, no way he just straight faced wedge balls. He couldn't
I'm here I'm here. You say wedge balls as I'm holding a Death Star like fidget ball thing that's like it's kind of like a stress ball fidget ball combined thing, but it's literally like covered like the Death Star. Anyway, it has nothing to do with anything. It just you said wedge balls while I was here playing with my
fondling your
stress balls, so
balls.
that was
Yeah.
just really funny for me.
Well, it
Yeah,
looked
exactly.
it looked really bad at first because, you just see a guy go into your goaltender who then just falls over and is down on the ice. And you're like, oh my God, is he okay? And then they show the replay. I'm like, he got hit in the dick. And it was so funny because in the post game, like he was trying to be PC about it. And he was like, we'll just call it a wedgie. And then later he was like, I'm surprised my voice is still low. So it was pretty funny. So you knew that for sure after that he got nailed by Lacombe, but obviously he was okay. He was down for a bit. It was a scary sight, but he ended up being all right and put on another stellar performance. There was another scary collision with Alex Killorn skating into Marty Netch's stick on a follow-through and then cutting himself. There seems to be some confusion by some. So to clarify, Marty Netchis did not receive a penalty on the high stick because it was deemed a follow-through, and it was, but the refs instead gave him an imaginary roughing penalty to, I suppose, somehow appease Quinville, who was hot over on Anaheim's bench. Here's hoping Killorn is okay, as him and Cale Makar had several good battles throughout the night. And the Avalanche, I have May, but it has been confirmed, will have their first real injury test as Nichushkin is out. He was reevaluated today. It said it was a lower body injury, and now it looks like he is going to miss some time, which sucks. But we'll see what they do tomorrow versus Buffalo. Last tidy bit of news here before I am all done is the Avalanche have extended Gavin Brindley. The day after Brindley scores the incredible OT winner in Vancouver, Avs fans awaken to some exciting bit of news that the team has extended Brindley for another 2 years for an insane cap hit of $850K a year, which is essentially league minimum at this point. I do think the scouting staff did fantastic to identify Brindley when seeking what they wanted in the cap dump to Columbus, but with how he's played this season, coaching and management is realizing there may be much more to Gavin Brindley than they originally thought. So they locked him up on essentially a second entry-level contract to shore up the Avalanche depth for the next few years and still leave room to re-sign Cale Makar and other Avalanche players while still having lower lines that make an impact. Gavin Brindley makes an impact on the ice, even if he isn't always on the score sheet, except now he is showing up on the score sheet. Super happy to have him around for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, you should be. He has been playing super well, like you said. When you have that type of throw in piece in a trade, especially like you said, a cap dump trade, to be able to get this type of production makes it a huge win. But I think his pace, the speed at which he plays, clearly aligns with how the Avalanche want to play hockey. We talked about it a bunch on previous episodes about why I think Marty Necas is a better fit, and we aren't going to rehash that discussion, but the same rationale would apply here to Gavin Brindley. And from everything I've seen from the highlights, from what you've shared and explained to me, Corey, I think he's going to be a mainstay on the roster and keep that cup window open just a little bit longer with that essential depth. Also, just rewinding a second, that Alex Killorn one is a little scary. It was a cut right near his eye, so glad that he is okay, at least in that regard. I'm sure it stings and it's not fun. But yeah, there shouldn't have been a penalty at all. Definitely refs being able to be biased because it was a clear follow through. I think if any fans are interested, I think the hockey guy went into it on one of his recent episodes.
I was going to say, that's why I was correcting it, because he was trying to say, it's not a penalty if it's a follow through, but they called the penalty, and it wasn't a penalty because it was a follow through. They called an imaginary penalty as a rough. There wasn't even a roughing, but they called a roughing instead. They didn't call a penalty on the high sticking. So I love THG, but that statement annoyed me a little bit. So I wanted to correct what he said.
Yeah, and definitely no one's perfect all the time.
No,
But
I mean, he's watching
he
every
went into
game.
it a little bit on that one. Yeah. But hey, what a great week for the Avs. And even if it
No
wasn't
kidding.
pretty every single time, playing on a back-to-back, you still got both wins on the road, a road back-to-back, no matter how close the cities and the arenas are. That's never fun. And you took a dominant 9-1 victory over Edmonton. And just going back to that again, Edmonton is looking not so great this year, but that roster still has plenty of talent that is not like you're beating up on Calgary. It's not like you're beating up on a bad team. You're beating up on a team that has gone to consecutive Stanley Cup finals. That is still a tremendous win, even if you win by 3, let alone winning by 8. And not so fun fact, I looked it up. The Sharks' actual worst loss in team history goes all the way back to 1992, where they lost 13-1. So
Holy
Edmonton, you're not
shit!
there yet.
13 to who? Oh my God.
Yeah, so that was, again, all the way back in the 92-93 season. And ironically, when I said shitting on the Flames, it was actually at the Flames.
Oh, wow. Okay, there you go. Well, Dom, it has been an incredibly exciting week, both in and out of the tank. With his performances, I almost had to pass the title of Mac Attack over to Macklin Celebrini, but then Nathan MacKinnon showed those kids who's still in charge. But the kids are all right. More than all right. Dominating, in fact. The Sharks keep picking up wins, and now they're in the playoff bubble, just as I predicted. Perhaps here soon they can bring Jumbo Joe that Stanley Cup ring to go along with that Hall of Fame ring he just picked up. It's time for In the Tank with Dom.
Oh, Corey, it's an exciting week. It's a great time to be alive. It's a great time to be a Sharks fan. Teal is such a great color. The future is teal, but I mean, you might see a little video of me saying it, and I really mean it. The future is teal, and the future, it's right now, because the Sharks aren't dominating all of these games. Well, they dominated their first one, and I'll get into that in a minute, but they're finding ways to win. Good teams find ways to win. The Avalanche found a way to win over the Canucks. The Sharks have not led or outshot their opponents in any game in the past, going all the way back. It's been since October, in that game that they lost at the Kings, where they outshot them 40-14. They have not outshot a single opponent since then, including the Avalanche. But they have 6 wins and an OT loss. Actually, correction, a shootout loss in their last 7 games. Call that a draw. 6 wins and a tie against Detroit is what the Sharks have to show for their last 7 games. That is incredible. Incredible. In those 7 games, they have not allowed more than 2 goals in any game. In the past week, the last 4 games, 1 goal allowed each game. So no shutouts. Still no shutouts for the Sharks tendies on the season. But, there's no other way to say it than that's fucking awesome. Like, incredible. Askarov is not quite over 900 on his save percentage yet, but in these games, let me tally up the saves that Askarov has, because he has allowed 3 goals this week, 1 to Seattle, 1 to Florida, and 1 to Minnesota, if I'm remembering correctly, because I think Ned started in Winnipeg. Yeah. And in those games, let me just pull up the exact stats for you, because I want to get this number right. He has 28 saves, 38 saves, and 29 saves.
I think his
3 goals allowed.
I think his save percentage will be jumping up rather quickly if he can keep that up.
Oh, yeah. It already has. It's at it was in the 840s, and now it's 896. Which is already equal to his save percentage from last year. But he has a winning record, or at least 500, where he's 5-4-1 on the season. But last 4 games, starting with the game against Colorado, I know, I'm sorry, Corey. 947, 967, 974, and 966. This is the goaltender that the Sharks went out to get to be the future. Not the goaltender who allowed 714 against LA or 841 and 824 to start the season against Anaheim and Utah. No, this is one of the kids. Everybody forgets how young Askarov is, and he is essential to the success of the Sharks in the future, and part of why they've won these games, because in each of these games he made incredible saves. Like, let me just get to the games, and then you'll see why. Because the first one, let's get the blowout out of the way. The Sharks went into Seattle and took their lunch money and their lunch and all the fans' lunch as well, because they all left and went home early before the game was over. Because last week we were talking about it. A lot happened. It was 3-1 after 2 periods, and we had talked about that. Shout out Ethan Cardwell with his first ever NHL goal. This time I remembered and said it correctly. But in the third period, the Sharks, we're just going to jump right there. This is how the Sharks started the first 5 minutes of the third period. They have a Will Smith goal just a minute into the period off assist from Mario Ferraro and guess who, Macklin Celebrini. Then Colin Graff, while shorthanded with Tyler Toffoli in the box, he picks the pocket, he goes sprinting up the ice, forces a great save, gets his own rebound, and throws it in front to Ty Dellandrea, who scores shorthanded. And then literally 30 seconds later, as he's hopping out of the box, Shakir Mukhamadullin finds Tyler Toffoli, who gets in alone, first shot on the new goaltender, and it's a goal. So the Sharks put up 5 goals on Joey Decord, who had been off to a stellar start to the season at 6-2 in games, or he's 6-2 on the season now, but he had 6 wins up to that point. And they put up 5 on 20 shots he faced. And then the first shot faced by the backup Matt Murray was a goal. Just incredible offensive dominance. I think the exact number is the Seattle Kraken had 6 power plays in this game. It felt like the officials were just blowing the whistle, trying to give them a chance to do something and get back into the game. And it really didn't matter. The Sharks' penalty kill looked really good. And I brought it up, but I want to say it again. I have been super, super loud and very excited about Colin Graff going back to last season. I really wanted him to get a roster spot. And something he has shown me is he is a really good penalty killer. He is a really, really strong defensive forward, which makes him great for our third line. And I think it goes a little bit underappreciated because he has, I think, 2 goals on the season thus far. Not an insanely crazy number, but when the Sharks penalty kill has struggled a lot to start the season, how about this, Corey? Since November started, they have allowed a single power play goal on 21 opposing power play attempts. And that goal came last night, or I guess Tuesday night, because you'll hear this on Thursday, in Minnesota, was the first goal in the month of November that the Sharks have allowed on the power play.
Well,
also the only goal the Sharks allowed to Minnesota the entire game.
Just like Elliot Friedman said, if they figure out how to defend, then you're in trouble. So it's happening. It's happening right now.
It's happening.
And I don't like it.
I mean, with more...
For me. I like it for you, but I don't like it for when we play each other next. I want to clarify. I'm happy for you because I want your team to do well. I'm not happy because I like it when we win. When we win, not saying that we won't though. So we'll see what happens next time we play each other at home. It'll be a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I am. I don't expect the Sharks to necessarily get a slot in the Pacific or even make it in, maybe sneak in as a wild card team. But oh, what fun it would be if our teams could play in the playoffs. I
would love it
in 2026 here. That would be so much fun. We would find a way, and we would be going to as many, if not all of those games here in Colorado that we could. We would figure it out because that would be amazing. And honestly, I would have the hardest time taking notes because it would just be a great time.
I was going to say, let's check something real quick here. If the playoffs started day, that might actually happen. Hold on. Let's see where you guys are. Oh, just
Yeah, we're last.
you're somehow behind Seattle, which doesn't make sense to me. You have more wins than they do with the same number of points. I guess it's because they've done it in
It's
fewer
games in hand.
games. Yeah, okay, that would be why. But I mean, in theory, if you guys had that second wild card spot with conferences, we would be playing you in the first round. So there you go.
Well, and that just changed because Seattle was sitting third in the Pacific, and with Edmonton scoring 2 points tonight, they did come back to get the win. It looks like.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed in that. Let me tell you.
So I don't know if you saw, but the Flyers' late goal was overturned and taken off the board.
Yes, I
So-
mentioned that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I must have zoned out. That's my apologies. That's
How dare
my
you.
bad. I did not hear when you said that. But anyway, very disappointing that Edmonton has overtaken. I was really excited to see the Flyers win that game as well. But that's why Edmonton jumped into a spot. Otherwise, we would have been in the 8th spot when we started recording. Anyway, in this game against the Kraken, 6 goals for the Sharks. 6 different Sharks scored. So you have Cardwell with his first career goal. You have Will Smith, I mentioned. How about John Klingberg from the defense? Ty Dellandrea, I mentioned. Tyler Toffoli. And of course, the one, the only, the Macklin Celebrini. And wow. I mean, there's so many good things about this game, and statistically how the Sharks basically overcame the Sharks' problems all year. They played incredibly well in the third period. They killed off 6 power plays. The goaltending was stellar. Like in November, the Sharks took all of their problems that they had in October, flipped them on their head, and made them strengths because the Sharks in the next game against Winnipeg, scored in the third period. Scored a game-winning goal in the third period against the Panthers. Scored, or at least took the lead or maintained a lead in the second, held it all through the third with an empty netter against the Wild. Scored late in the third to tie it, and then again in overtime. This team that did not know how to finish games a month ago is playing really, really well in the third period. And it's not perfect. The defense still leaves some to be desired. It's a lot of stellar goaltending, really incredible saves. Sure, some puck luck is part of it. And just, frantically making it work when it's in front of the net and clearing it away from the crease. But the fact is that the Sharks are winning these games by scoring later in the game, scoring the last goal. And that's sometimes all it takes to win. Because I mentioned it before, aren't out shooting. We didn't outshoot Seattle in that game. Granted, we had so many goals that we kind of just stopped shooting. Even Seattle's shots didn't feel like they were very, there wasn't much effort behind them, if that makes sense. Winnipeg outshot 33-27. Florida outshot the Sharks 39-23. And they were pouring it on in the third. And the Sharks still bent but didn't break. They held firm. Again, some incredible goaltending from Askarov. And then in the game against Minnesota on the road there, Nedeljkovic was actually supposed to start that night. So they've gone back to switching off every game since both goaltenders have been really, really incredible. And he was actually with the team as the starting goalie in morning skate. And then it's still not clear. And I just want to send our best to Alex Nedeljkovic with whatever it may be. But he had to fly home immediately after the Minnesota game. So he stayed with the team through the end of the game, but did not start due to a personal, something that happened personally. So we have no idea what it is, and I don't want to speculate, but I just want to send all the best to him and his family, regardless of what it is, since he was in line to start that game against Minnesota.
Yeah.
Rewinding to earlier in the episode, though, after the game against the Winnipeg Jets on Friday the 7th, I want to say that was a Friday. Let me double check my calendar so I'm not lying. Yeah, it was a Friday. So Friday the 7th, that game hosting Winnipeg, the front end of a back-to-back, which this back half was against the Florida Panthers, right? So why is this important? This is only the 6th time in NHL history that a team has defeated the reigning President's Trophy winners and the defending Stanley Cup champions in consecutive games, let alone on back-to-back nights. The Sharks have never even played those teams, the reigning President's Trophy team and the defending Stanley Cup champion, in back-to-back games before in their 35-year history. This was a first. And then to win it and become one of only 6 squads in all of history to have done that. This incredible stat. And yeah, after the first one against Winnipeg, Celebrini had 2 points on the night on the Sharks' 2 goals. He was leading the league in scoring at that point, and what a great feeling that was, even for just a night, Corey.
Yeah. Hold on. I do. Hold on. I do want to say. I think I saw that the last time the Sharks beat the Florida Panthers ever was 2017. Was it? So it's been 8 years since you last beat the Panthers. Let alone beat them when they're the defending champions.
I didn't know that. So wow, that is
So that's
makes
pretty
it
crazy.
even better.
Yeah. I'm gonna check myself just to make sure I'm correct. But carry on.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good. Please do let me know. I'm very actually intrigued by that stat. Love when the Sharks are breaking trends and winning. But where was I? Oh, yes. This incredibly difficult back-to-back.
Yeah, it was 2017.
These aren't bad teams. Okay, wow. So that's, if it's 2017, it's almost 8 years then.
Macklin Celebrini was 11 years old.
God. Those stats, did you see the one? I think you sent it to me, but what's the guy on Pittsburgh who on the power play scored a goal on the same line as Sidney Crosby, who was like born the same time? Like there was, you gotta, let's pull that up. Let's side tangent.
Yeah. I'll get it pulled up here. Here it is. So the Penguins were eliminated from the playoffs on April 19th of 2007 by Ottawa. It was the first playoff series that Sid and Gino ever participated in. I only bring this up because on the night they were eliminated in Ottawa, Ben Kindle was born. He now plays on the top power play unit with them. Oh my God. That is from, I believe, Josh Yohei or Yo on Twitter. So thank you, Josh. That is insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane in 2 ways. One, Sidney Crosby, the longevity is incredible. We've talked about it before. And 2, these kids are getting better every year. They are ready for the NHL jump earlier and earlier. They've just, the way the junior programs are now, the NCAA programs as well, there's the maturity there that we're seeing more and more among players to be able to make that jump and jump into thriving roles. To be on the same power play unit as Sidney Crosby and Gino Malkin, that is insane. Insane. So just crazy stat line. I'm glad you said that to me. Total side tangent. Back to Winnipeg game. It was a goaltending duel. And did I ever think that I would get to say that Alex Nedeljkovic outdueled Connor Hellebuck in a goaltending battle where the final score was 2-1? No, I never thought I could say that. Like, Ned, I thought was going to be playing every third game, maybe try to get over a 900 save percentage, and he's statistically better than Askarov this year, even though Askarov's stats have been just shooting up in the last 4 games. Nobody's better. But still, it was stressful. The Sharks felt like they had a lot of chances that Hellebuck robbed, but Nedeljkovic did too. He was stealing ones away from Winnipeg. They were still shooting it a bunch. And, you know, it sometimes feels a little dumbfounding, I guess, when these happen, because you feel like the score should be like 4-3. and then the goaltenders just decide, no, that's not the game we're playing tonight. But what mattered is late in the third period, less than 5 minutes left. It was Will Smith from guess who, Macklin Celebrini and Philip Kurashev, who they got the lead. They got the lead. They got the game-winning goal right then. So it doesn't always have to be pretty, but they're doing better late in games when it matters. I don't know if it's just more experience and more confidence that later in games, they've got a little bit more jump in their step. They're not playing as afraid or as cautious. And if that's what it is, great. Keep it up. I love seeing the young kids get more and more confidence because they're playing better and better. Will Smith, by the way, like Macklin Celebrini, I know we've talked about, he has 26 points in 17 games. He is second in the league in points. And most importantly, second. Yeah. You know what? MacKinnon can get his Art Ross. You've been wanting that for him for years, and I'm all for that for you. What matters is when we talk about duos and rivalries, Celebrini is ahead of his rival Bedard by 1 point. So in the kindest way for me, all that matters is Celebrini finishes the year ahead of Bedard.
Yes.
Because that's what's going to matter in the next 20 years. That is the battle that we're all watching, and we'll see where McKenna, if he interjects himself here in a little while. But based on the time of entering the league and everything, Celebrini versus Bedard, it's our new Ovi versus Crosby. And I mean, so many other examples we've given. So I'm super impressed. But where I was going with that, not trying to get onto that rivalry as much, was it's not just Celebrini, because Will Smith is now a point per game player. He has 17 points in 17 games now. And something important, Eklund finally returned after being out on injured reserve for a little over a week. And he is almost a point per game player still, with 11 points in what is only 13 games played for Eki. But, they're scoring across the top six. And how about Dmitry Orlov? No goals, but still 11 assists in 17 games. He has been a great acquisition, definitely trying to resurrect his career. It was one of those ones that could have been a trade deadline type of chip where the Sharks help that player who can make a jump this season, right? There's a lot of talk about that. Players like Orlov and Wenberg, and the fact that there's just so many defensemen. I know Wenberg's not a defenseman, but I know there were all these trade rumors before the season even started about, could these Sharks take a step this year, play well, and be appealing to teams at the trade deadline? But if the Sharks are in the playoff hunt, I sure as hell hope we're done being sellers and we can even extend some of these guys, because I've loved watching Orlov play. I know he stands over the line more often than you'd like him to, Corey, sometimes more often than I'd like him to, but he's helping the team win games. He's bringing a physicality that the team needs, even if, again, it's a little too much sometimes. And I'll acknowledge it's a little too much sometimes, but he's scoring points. He's protecting the younger guys. And his impact cannot be understated, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I just, he stresses me out when we play him. I did keep track of the things I wanted to say, if you're ready for me to say them.
Yes, sorry, I kind of ran on there, so please
don't be
jump
sorry.
in. I'm going to drink my water.
I didn't want to interrupt you. Further fun fact is that the San Jose Sharks have a winning record for the first time since March 26th of 2022. So, well done, boys. You finally made it. That being said, though, it is interesting because, everybody's talking about the hot teams in the NHL. And I mean, the Avalanche have ended 3 massive winning streaks from the hottest teams. So I guess if you're a hot team, don't come and play the Avs. They will crush your win streak. But it's interesting to me that nobody's really talking about the fact that the Sharks are winning. At least I think they are in like sections of the internet is what I'm trying to say. SECTS of social media and the internet, and hockey fans are realizing that the Sharks are doing well, but it's not really like in the main media's mind that, oh, hey, the Sharks are, what did you say it was? They are how many for their last how many?
Have won 6 of their last 7, with the one loss being in a shootout,
So I mean,
and 8 of their last 11 total. Sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that the main NHL news is just not really talking about it. That being said, though, I do think with where they're at, there is a possibility that they cool down a little bit, not to bring any bad vibes into the conversation, but I think there is a possibility that they cool down a little bit. But the fact that they are this competitive, regardless, I think is still incredibly promising for them. And even if they do cool off a little bit, I don't think that necessarily means that they'll stop being competitive in games. I just think maybe the winning might take a step back, but they'll still be, very present.
Oh, certainly. And I have to say I agree. I thought Florida, if you're looking at the eye test, looked like the better team on the ice. And their forecheck, when they pulled out that Florida forecheck, they were very dominant for periods. And the Sharks were able to get away with it, be able to get some clears, and just, again, some incredible goaltending. Winnipeg as well really looked like the better team for certain portions of that game. Minnesota looked like the better team for definitely the first half of that game. I mean, it was 0-all after the first period, but it was back and forth to some degree, but it felt like Minnesota was playing a little angry. It felt like they were better. Also, very different. A 2-1 game in Minnesota as opposed to last time in Minnesota late in October. So just like 2 to 2.5 weeks ago was when the Sharks won 6-5 in overtime. So very different game scripts.
Yeah.
Both teams seem to be very intently focused on physicality, which, even as I've highlighted the Sharks having the ability to be more physical, when Gaudreau's out there with Ryan Reeves and Delandria, that fourth line, also with Gaudette, it's actually been pretty spicy to watch. I enjoy that. I've talked about Orlov. The Sharks have some size now, and they're not afraid to throw their weight around, but they were still out-muscled by all 3 of those teams, by Winnipeg, Florida, and Minnesota. So I don't think they were the better team in these games by any means necessarily, but what I think I'm most happy about is the goaltending, for one. That deserves all the credit. And I know you give our 3 stars of the week for the show, and they're going to be Avalanche, but first star of the week, as far as I'm concerned, and it's Yaroslav Askarov, with crediting those 3 out of those 4 wins, over 100 saves compared to only 3 goals allowed. That's incredible for a week. But you're right, because right now the Sharks are still going to be on a road trip. They're going to play on Thursday. So when you're listening to this, they're going to be at Calgary. And I honestly, at this point, that needs to be a win. They need to keep it going for at least one more win, because then it's at Seattle again. And I know, Corey, you would like that to be a win. I would like that to be a win, especially against another Pacific team that could be huge in the playoff race later on. But then for the rest of the month, they host Utah, LA, Boston. Here at Colorado, they also host Vancouver, and then finish their last game of the month at Vegas. The one other game in there is against Ottawa, who, out of all the teams in the league, going back to what we talked about earlier, spends the most time in overtime than anybody. Like, I think we should rebrand the Ottawa Senators to the Ottawa Coin Flips, because literally every single game is going to overtime.
Yeah, that'd be funny. The Ottawa Coin Flips. They currently, and this is a bit of foreshadowing for later, they have the best face-off percentage in NHL history right now, although I expect it to level out a little bit, but it's like at 58%, so they're crazy. Ottawa's really good at face-offs.
Wow. Yeah, the Sharks are not. They had multiple times lower than 40% in the past week. So that's not great.
Avs aren't very good at face-offs either.
It's okay. Yeah, I mean, you know it's bad when actually that one that they had 50.7%. That was their best in the month of November, and even then they were splitting pretty evenly with you guys. So is what it is. Faceoffs aren't goals. The scoreboard's what counts, and the scoreboard shows 5 wins for the Sharks here in November. Point is, it's going to get tougher, like you said. And I want to highlight that game on the second half of a back-to-back at home against Boston on the 23rd. Because you know why nobody's talking about the Sharks? Because they play on the West Coast. These games are starting late at night. Like it's 8 o'clock here in Colorado watching puck drop for these games. That means it's 10 p.m. Eastern time, last game of the night. Not everyone's staying up and watching those on a weeknight. Meanwhile, especially when Boston, a 4-game win streak is great. 6 out of their last 7, 8 out of their last 11. All the stats I've given for the Sharks. Boston's won 7 in a row, Corey. Did you know that? I didn't know that until today.
Yeah, they're second in the fucking Atlantic all of a sudden. They were bottom and they were ass. Now they're good. Like, what the fuck? I hate this team.
Yeah, they've been dominating games at home, 8-3 at home. One of the only teams to not actually have an overtime loss on the season. But, it's weird. It's still early. There's going to be so many jumps about. That's probably part of why the Sharks aren't getting as much attention. I mean, the Blackhawks did it sooner. It feels like they were the young team further up the standings sooner. The Flyers are better than expected up the standings with their young roster sooner. The Ducks, obviously. I know we expected the Ducks to make the playoffs, Corey, or at least I expected the Ducks to make the playoffs. I didn't expect them to lead the Pacific. Yeah, you're right. You did say that they would make the playoffs. I guess I know I was vocally high on the Ducks, and I was frustrated about how good I thought they were going to be.
They're
but they're
good.
even better than I thought. Yeah, they are much better than I thought. The fact that they gave the Avalanche a game, and yeah, I think the Avalanche still handled their business very well, but the Ducks are not a team to snooze at.
No.
So there are other teams in that way that are garnering more attention. LA also went on a series of wins, which I know I'm just all over the place in the tank tonight. There's so much exciting in the Sharks world that I just feel okay to just grab all this other news from around the league and sprinkle it in because I'm not busy complaining about something. But the Kings, who were like one of the most incredible teams at home last year, are fucking ass at home, but are 7-1-2 on the road. So I guess good news is we play them in LA this month. Hopefully, maybe. Like, I don't know. We'll see. It's just these weird trends all around the league. It's early. I think by the end of November, we'll have a better idea and some more of these teams will be parsed out. So I'm hoping the Sharks can go about 500 to finish out the month and still be in the running.
Well, I mean, I hope if they can at least capture that wild card spot by American Thanksgiving, then mathematically and statistically, their chances to make the playoffs at the end of the year go up exponentially. Because I believe, I'm spitballing off the top of my head, so take it with a bit of a grain of salt, but I think it's like 75% of teams who are in a playoff spot by American Thanksgiving end up holding that playoff spot for the end of the year. So, here's hoping. So, I mean, like I said, if they can get a couple more wins here going into Thanksgiving, which is 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from tomorrow, then they have a much better shot, and it'd be cool. Do I think they would make it very far in the playoffs? No, but it'd be fun if they did. If they made it, that is.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the West is super strong. I think the Pacific, you might have said it. Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, the fact that Minnesota, they're seeming to push back. They got a better start to November as well, but they haven't exactly looked like a playoff team. Nashville's finally fallen off. St. Louis is worse than expected. Utah's on a 3-game losing streak, so that's been a little disappointing for them after their hot start. Seattle, I think, is quintessential mid. They're not as good as their record, in my opinion. Vegas is playing much worse than expected, so it's wide open is really what it comes down to.
I like it when teams I don't like are ass. Makes me happy.
Yeah, and it's also just really quickly, great thing that the Avalanche are still winning games and on their own 4-game win streak because, yeah, they're not creeping. They are surging. They're in second in the Central and in the entire West because they're tied with the Ducks on points, albeit in one more game played. But still, things are starting to settle out a bit more where we expected them to be. So I think you're right, Corey. By Thanksgiving, by the end of the month, we'll have a better idea of teams that we can start saying are probably out of it, even if they're not mathematically eliminated.
Yeah, and I mean, the Stars are kind of an interesting case because I mean, they have, and I mean, it's important to win ugly. Avalanche have definitely had a few of those, but I mean, a lot of these Stars games, they are not winning them very cleanly. Like they are really having to fight tooth and nail for every win that they're getting. And I mean, that speaks to their depth as a team for sure. But at the same time, they are not, I think, winning in typical Stars fashion that most people have come to associate with that team. But we don't have to talk about the
And
Stars.
well, I think the only thing I would say is it sets up well. Something that I think the hockey guy said well on one of his episodes was how this is setting up with the Avalanche are scary. He said he's always scared of the Avalanche, and he should be. And the way this is going, and this has been building with the playoffs the last few years, they're gonna one of these years, and I honestly think it's gonna be this year. They're gonna clash with Dallas in the playoffs, and they're just gonna absolutely just take a brick to their head and dominate them. Like, I think a season like this where Dallas's record maybe is better than how they're playing while the Avalanche are playing lights out. If they meet in the playoffs and everyone's like, here we go again, I think just if we look at how these teams are playing today, it would not be nearly as competitive of a series as it was last year. I think the Avalanche would be able to win that much, much more easily. And I know this bold statement over here, and I'm not trying to mess up anything in the universal juju, but they're on very different trajectories, I feel like.
I can only pray, brother. Every single time we play that fucking team, I'm always just like, please just be a 4-game sweep of the Stars and just be done. It never is. And I mean, I respect the Stars. I always do because I know what kind of players they have. I know the kind of game that they play, and I also like and respect Jake Ottinger, so I always know what kind of bullshit the Avalanche and hoops they have to jump through just to win those games. So I mean, that's just how it is when you're playing the Dallas Stars. So, and I mean, they always play well in the playoffs, as we've seen. I mean, they've made and lost in 3 straight Western Conference Finals. So I mean, never anything to sniff at. But I do think there will be some changing of the guard this year, and we probably won't see Edmonton or Dallas in the Western Conference Finals this year. I do think we're going to see some different faces. Hopefully, those faces being the Avalanche.
Yeah, and regardless, different faces are always wonderful to see, especially after 2 straight Stanley Cup Finals being the exact same matchup. I think having some parity and having new teams on both sides is really wonderful to see. I think it's great that at least for periods, Detroit has looked better than other years, and of course they've started to drop off. But Montreal at the top is great. Obviously, Pittsburgh playing better than expected. Same with Philadelphia. Love to see that. And you know, I feel bad for Toronto because they're near the bottom of the Atlantic,
Womp womp.
but enough of the side quests because I've bounced around. I've talked a little bit about these games. I want to talk about this Minnesota game just a little bit longer because, like I said, the Sharks weren't necessarily the better team or playing like the better team in this game, and they definitely got away with some, like, not that they were Dmitry Orlov getting away with dirty play. No, it was more so the fact that they were bailed out by goaltending. There were a lot of good chances on the power play, and Minnesota has a really fucking good power play. That's why they were the first team to score on the Sharks while they were on the penalty kill in the month of November. But going into the third period, and actually more than halfway through the third period, I want to say it was, yeah, over halfway through the third period, how about the Sharks just getting one back on their power play, which has been up and down this season. It's not the best, but it's certainly better than in years past. But I don't know if you saw this one, Corey, but as tic-tac-toe passing as you could get, like, I'm pretty sure it touched all 5 guys' stick, but it was like at least 3 passes, so 4 guys touching it, where they were all one-touch passes, wide open net for Will Smith. The last feed from MacLeod was perfect, but really all of the passes were really great on that play to tie it up. And so that was really cool to see, just the fancy play. That really high quality passing is always impressive to me. And then I highlighted his name before, but in overtime, Celebrini was definitely out there for a long shift. I think it was close to 2 minutes. The Sharks were getting they won the puck to start overtime, and ended up losing it, I want to say, on a rebound in the offensive zone. And thankfully, they were able to get a change, get Celebrini on. But he was on and trapped in their own zone for at least what felt like a little while, at least 90 seconds. But Celebrini, near the end of that shift, was able to steal the puck, be the wonderkind that he is, and push it up ice and find Colin Graff, who was able to switch it forehand to backhand on the deke and put it past Gustafsson to get the winner. I'm telling you, this Graff kid, he doesn't get all the headlines, but he's showing up in those biggest moments on the penalty kill with the shorthanded goal chances in overtime 3v3 situations when being a defensive forward matters more. Graff is always showing up there in the biggest moments, and he's proving he can really play alongside anyone. So I know I don't do normally a 3 stars of the week for the Sharks.
I was going to say, there's nothing that ever stopped you from doing that. You are free to do that anytime you want to.
And I probably will. I think now that the team is playing well consistently, I think it's a little bit easier for me. Yeah, exactly. But I think number 1 star, I've already said who it is. So at number 3, though, I got to give it to Colin Graff. He's really showed up at multiple points this week, and it's always been in the biggest moments. Exactly. Look at this graph. Number 2, of course, and you might think I'm crazy saying MacLeod Celebrini at number 2 with 3 goals and 8 points in the last 4 games, but it's got to go to Askarov. 3 wins, 3 goals allowed, over 100 shot attempts faced, or close to it, I want to say. It's either just over or just under 100 shot attempts faced. Man, he is the reason the Sharks have won these games. They weren't the best team out there. Their defense still needs work, but he's there bailing them out. And with that said, Corey, I have a couple other little segments, so I don't want to keep going in circles and bouncing around the league and letting my ADHD take over. So is there anything more you'd like to say about the Sharks' run of play in the past week or in general? Any comments, critiques, criticisms?
I don't think any more than I've already said. It's been fun. It's just been fun because I've tuned in either to a couple games or a part of a couple of your guys' games, because sometimes you've been playing at the same time as we have. But it's just fun when a team that you know has been struggling, has been working through a rebuild, to see the results and the fruits of those labors is just, it's nice. And I mean, of course, it's even more nice here since the Sharks are, 50% of what the show is. So I am super glad that they're doing well. And I mean, I hope that they prove me wrong. I hope that they don't cool off. I hope they keep winning. I hope they can take an even bigger step in the Pacific Division. I still, full disclosure, don't think they're quite there yet. I do think there's a bit more growing and improving to do, but I think with where they're at right now, this is a great first step. But I mean, measuring stick moments, I think, are going to come just like it did for the Ducks against the Avalanche. The Ducks are a fantastic and great team, but then they played the Avs and it's like, oh boy, we're still not quite there yet. And I mean, it's nice. It's nice to be the team at the top right now. It's nice to be the measuring stick. So I'm excited to see where my team can take it. But with that in mind, I'm excited to see where your team can take it. And I'm looking forward to November 26th when we can go and see them play here at home base. I'm not thinking the Avs will take them as lightly as they did the first time they played.
Yeah, may it be an exciting and competitive game. And I think perhaps rephrasing what you were saying is the Sharks are ahead of schedule. They weren't supposed to be a playoff team this year, and they probably still aren't. But it's fun to watch. The things that Celebrini can do on the ice, and seeing these young kids get more and more confident and be creative in their play, it's fun. And I think that's my hope, is that they'll start to get more coverage, because more and more neutrals and fans of other franchises will be able to enjoy watching them play and want to see it more. And so that's how the Sharks are going to become more mainstream, is over time, I think. But I want to finish on a positive. So in the less positive, or the, let's be real, negative Sharks news, Michael Misa was put on IR and has been out since November 4th. He's currently considered week to week with an undisclosed injury. So this is not something where we expect him back soon. And this is unfortunate, honestly. I mean, I think the good news for the Sharks is, as far as considering his entry level contract, he's played 7 games so far this season. So if the recovery takes longer than expected, they don't have to decide right away on whether or not they're going to burn his first season. However, the longer he's out, in a certain way, it almost makes it more likely that they would send him down to play in juniors again rather than getting more of a chance, unfortunately. So just send in the best to Michael Misa, and I hope he has a speedy recovery from whatever it is that's ailing him, so we can see him on the ice again soon. Because again, it's not clear. We don't even know if it's upper body or lower body, but we know it's more serious than just the classic day to day, since he's been classified as week to week.
Yes, here is hoping. Here's hoping that he recovers quickly. I would rather him play in the NHL.
Agreed. But in the very positive news, Corey, you mentioned it earlier, but Jumbo Joe Thornton has officially been inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. And I think it's always a beautiful moment when we get to see things like this. I'm not going to try to paraphrase or quote his speech. I can just encourage everyone to go on YouTube and watch it. It's like 10 minutes long, but you can see the passion, the love of the game, the gratitude in a grown man, the Jumbo man with his massive beard up there struggling to read off of his cards of a written speech because of how emotional it was of a moment for him, being able to appreciate his former teammates, his coaches, tell a really heartwarming story about how, while he was upset like many players were with Gary Bettman for the NHL lockout, that opened doors and he ended up actually going to play in Switzerland, and that's where he met his wife and the love of it and the love of his life. And so it's just a really, really beautiful story that I don't want to say more than that. I think everyone should go watch it, but obviously the emotions were running high, and it was really cool to see all the support he had there from Sharks past and present. I don't know how many actually of the present Sharks were able to be there, but he did give some shout outs to Macklin Celebrini and told another cool story about how he was put up and hosted when he first came into the league in Boston. And it's just really cool to see him, how time and everything progresses, where he has returned that on, and how he hosted Macklin in the last year as a rookie, and the closeness, the bond that they still have actively today. I think it's just really cool to see him be able to bring that full circle and give it back. So just huge congratulations, and much deserved, to Jumbo Joe Thornton being inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. He truly was the face of the Sharks franchise for over a decade. And, I think we are all incredibly grateful to have watched him play, and wish he could have been able to get a cup win either here or elsewhere on one of his other stops right before the end of his career.
Yes, yes. And I really liked, I've seen clips of his speech. I really liked when he spoke on his wife and his family, and he was basically up there blubbering like a baby. And it was just so sweet to see. I think guys who we often don't see their full emotional side, or really who they are deep down, to really see Jumbo Joe as a person, who he really is underneath all the hockey gear. That was super cool. And I mean, you can really feel the love that he has for his wife and his children. Also, Gary Bettman is stupid. He called him Dumbo instead of Jumbo.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Bettman is Gary Bettman. I don't think there's any fan of the NHL who is like a true fan who is also a fan of Gary Bettman. But that's neither
No.
here nor there.
Yeah.
Sticking on Jumbo, though, I just one last moment for a Sharks fan to mention, when he was talking about some of his highlights of his career with the Sharks. Obviously, the Cup run, even though they weren't able to beat the Penguins that year, that was the first moment he mentioned. And he said, although he did quite enjoy Game 7, Round 1 over the Vegas Golden Knights in 2019. Drum roll, please. Fuck you, Rico.
Oh.
And that's all I have to say about that. Thank you, Jumbo. And thank you all for joining me. It's been a splendid week of hockey. I wish the best onto all of you, whatever team you root for. We like to hope it's the Avs or the Sharks, but I'm in a very happy and giving mood with the hockey week I've had. So I don't think I have anything left to say other than, be kind out there, everyone. Drink your water and, enjoy your hockey.
Well, alrighty, everybody. Thank you, Dom, for your time in the tank. It was a pleasure, as always. Let's talk about our 3 players of the week, which really is not 3 because, my God, the Avalanche scored and did so much this week that it's very hard to just pick 3 people. So we have 4 people in the honorable mention category, that being Gabe Landeskog, Jack Drury, Arturi Lehkonen, and Cale Makar, who all had stellar weeks, obviously. But your top 3 are Parker Kelly, Gavin Brindley, and Nathan MacKinnon. Duh. I mean, how could I couldn't not pick Nathan MacKinnon. Even with Gabe Landeskog, my favorite player, scoring his first goal in 3 years. I can't discount 12 points in 3 games or 9 points in 2. I can't do that. So yeah. Your fun fact for the week, though, I kind of alluded to it with these face-off stats, but the Avalanche have never been known as a face-off heavy team, as in they have many skills and incredible qualities, but being the best team in the face-off dot is not one. But of all the years that the Avalanche have been a team, some may find it surprising that their best face-off year in their history was in 2016-17, the year that they came in dead last and could only muster 48 points. They had a face-off percentage of 53.6, with their best face-off man at the time being, and you can kind of argue it one way or another based on how you look at it, but to me, it was Matt Duchene, who took nearly 1,100 draws for a 62.6%, according to Hockey Reference and Money Puck. But their records of the stat being recorded actually only go back as far as 2007-2008. And in case you're curious, the Avalanche's second best seasons were 2011-2012 and 2020-2021 at 51.6%. The best face-off team in NHL history is the 2012-2013 Bruins in the shortened year. They had a percentage of 56.39%, or if you prefer a full season, that title belongs to the 2009-2010 San Jose Sharks at 55.61%.
Oh, no way. That's a new stat to me. I never realized that. That's super cool.
Yeah, so at one point, the Sharks just were crushing it in the face-off dot. As they do. I think Max Macklin Celebrity is going to be very good in the face-off dot, too. I think that kid's going to be a face-off wizard. I was going to see if you would agree. Do you agree?
Sorry. It went quiet there for a second,
I went quiet,
it cut out, and then I heard you. No, sorry. Before before the end, it cut out at like midway through, and I was like, I was just waiting it out to see because it was like, wait, we've been so good this episode. It hasn't cut out on me yet. At least you haven't told me it has. So I was like, I was just here biding my time. But yeah, Macklin, he has the makings of a great face-off wizard. It's still not his biggest strength, but I feel like he's been winning them back, and his wingers need to do a better job of just winning the race to the puck when he wins it to the side, because he's definitely had it at least be behind him or slightly behind him, even if it's more sideways, and the Sharks haven't always won the puck to give him credit. So I think he's won more than he's actually been credited for. But anyway, that's super cool. Thanks for giving me a chance to jump in, and thanks for following me along in my very disjointed in the tank tonight. I just, reflecting on it, realized how all over the place I was, but I hope it was fun and different.
It was. That's okay. Sometimes you just gotta jump around because there's just too many positives to keep up with. So you can't complain when shit is going well. Well, everyone, the clock is counting down to the final horn. We really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this episode of the Captain Avalanche Fancast. If you have something you want to know about the Avalanche, Sharks, or just hockey in general, reach out to us on our socials or email, and we'll be happy to try and answer it. The best thing you can do if you like what we're doing here is to follow us on whatever platform you're using and to share this podcast everywhere you can with everyone you can. I'm Captain Avalanche Corey.
And I'm Dom from the tank.
Check out our new episodes every Thursday. Thanks, everyone.